G'day, freedom lovers. How are you today? Today we've got one hell of an interesting show. This is an opportunity for people to see how little I actually know about computers. Usually I'm the one that's helping everyone. But we've got some amazing guests here that are about to tell us just how little cybersecurity we actually have. But before we get into that, I really want to address our lovely fail of the week. It really is good. I've spent a bit of time today knocking out this video. It's taken a bit of effort, and obviously a lot of research goes into these things. But this will give everybody a chance to sort of, grab a drink, get yourself nice and comfy, maybe grab a pen and paper because, well, I guess you can always watch it later on a rerun. But you never know. You might want to start taking notes as you go because we might have some time for some questions. So, jot down your questions as we go, and maybe these lovely people from Cyvizen can fill us in what's going on as far as our privacy goes. But for now, sit back and enjoy Fail of the Week.
Fail of the Week.
Welcome to Fail of the Week. Sorry, that was last week's video. We need this week's video, which... hang on.
Fail of the Week.
Welcome to Fail of the Week. This week I thought I'd try out a bit of a Twitter poll and see what the people thought, and if you want to jump in on next week's one, go to Twitter and have a look. Coming in at last place was good old Elbow and his jet-setting habits. We got a wonderful shot of him getting around with all the favourites like Sleepy Joe Biden. Like, who wouldn't want to meet that Yahoo? Of course, was Dan Andrews there with him. It was the big joke of the week on Twitter. The PM, of course, was advised against going over it due to security and hacking fears, but, Elbow took Penny Wong. How much more safe could you possibly be? But hey, who cares about any of these things when Australia's record biggest income decline in the developed world has just hit an all-time low? Of course these things are happening. We've all got to pay for Elbow's holidays. Pretty sure he thinks he's on the way out and he's going to spend as much as he can. And of course, in the face of all Australians who are starving, we've got Elbow shaking his butt in your face. Coming in at third place was our solitary protester out front of Canberra. He might be able to learn a thing or two from those of us who knew how to put on a real protest down in Canberra. But of course he has this poor young boy brainwashed into thinking that the world's going to end.
Going to be a really hot summer and bushfires and temperature. We're all going to burn alive.
It's pretty devastating to hear him say that we're all going to burn alive. Of course, here he is, day 4, with the dog. The running joke on Twitter was he got hungry and ate the dog on day 5. And of course, here he is, day 8, hiding under a giant doona as he's clearly freezing to death with all this amazing global warming that's going on. Coming in at second place, good old Palachuk spending $40 million, which is aimed at easing the pressure on hospital emergency departments and providing the cost of living relief. Amazing how much money she is spending trying to buy everybody's voices. I don't know that a flu jab was really the best option, considering, again, have a look at how many people didn't want a COVID jab. Of course, here she is leading into the ultimate fail, having a lovely little photo op on the plane here with doing the little hearty thing, like she really cares. I think what she really loves is jet setting around at the Australian taxpayers' expense and doing her little bit for climate change, leading us into
Fail of the Week.
the killing of koalas. The reason why we've got our first place winner this week is good old Labor and the Greens. It takes a huge amount of effort to come up with such a stupid bloody idea as these wind farms to begin with. But to put the icing on the cake, we're going to go around euthanizing koalas whose population is already in drastic numbers. So in order to meet the 82% of Australia's power needs by 2030 with renewables at a whopping cost of $1.2 trillion, we need to kill these koalas to make way for more wind turbines. Look at all these things all over the place doing 2/5 of nothing as usual. You can jump on this website at any time and have a look at how useless they are. Today's numbers show us that South Australia was actually producing greater than 60% to be seen. Of course, up here in Queensland, we haven't destroyed the countryside too much just yet. But again, you can see they are doing virtually nothing, if not absolutely nothing. So according to Andrew Bolt, it's not just Queenslanders that are pissed off about this, it's all over the country, particularly down the eastern coast.
In New South Wales, voters in 2 marginal Labor seats are trying to stop a huge wind farm off the coast above Newcastle. Further down the coast, about 1,000 people rallied at Wollongong. In Tasmania, locals at Stanley celebrated this week after 2 years of fighting a planned wind farm there near the beautiful coastal outcrop called the Nut. In Queensland, the Friends of Chalambin group has been formed to stop another wind farm in a Nigeria adjacent to a World Heritage listed rainforest. 40 big new wind turbines a month, plus 22,000 new solar panels a day.
Coming back to our lovely climate protester, this is the kind of thing these people want. They want these cars catching fire. Not only do they catch fire themselves, but they seem to take out everything else around them too. They don't stop burning. Of course, speaking of burning, we've got these wonderful things catching fire wherever we can. They drop all over the place, and there's even reports of them setting fires across the land. Of course, to point out just how green these things are, here's a massive oil leak. And of course, once we're done with these useless things that have just caught fire or leaked oil all over the place, or just plain stopped because they were built in China and they do have a 20 to 30 year lifespan if we're lucky. You got to wonder what archaeologists are going to be thinking in the years to come when they uncover these piles and piles of buried wind turbines. I hope they put a time capsule in there with a big picture of Elbow and these other greeny bloody idiots explaining their stupidity as they did this. But what this is really all about is the koalas after all. So koala habitats have come under threat, according to the Nationals. The project will involve major land clearing activities and heaven help any animal that gets in the way of progress. What's in the environmental controls? It's how to euthanize these small animals with a sharp blow with a hammer to the skull. Where are the Greens? Not to be seen. That's why they're on the board here, right next to their good friends Labor, saving the world as usual. The environmental impact statement for that project says the euthanasia will be conducted using blunt force trauma. Blunt force trauma is recommended to humanely kill reptiles to small, medium-sized mammals. This involves a hard, sharp blow to the base of the back of the skull. Well done, Greens. Well done, Labor. Every time I see this cartoon, I think of the Greens.
Come out, wherever you are. Oh, he's asleep. He's back! Hi! Don't worry. Even if you are funny looking, I'll still love you and hug you and squeeze you all to bits.
Why do I think of the Greens? Because they're literally loving nature to death. What's the solution to this? Apparently 50% of Australians are now getting on board with nuclear. That seems to be the solution here for cheap, efficient and effective power. But don't take it from me, take it from an environmental scientist.
Instead of having all this destruction that could be happening right through all our forests, which is terrible for climate change, have nuclear power stations replacing our coal-fired power stations, actually on the sites where the coal-fired power stations are. They don't need extra infrastructure, they don't need extra transmission lines, and in fact many of the workers could move almost directly to the new job.
If you want to see more on that story, I highly recommend you could check out our video. The link is in the description. Wind farms, a man-made disaster. Thank you all for watching. Jump over to Twitter if you'd like to cast your vote for next week's. I should have it up roughly around Sunday. Until next time, thank you very much. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I spent most of the day putting that one together. So, we've got quite a few comments coming in already, which is awesome to see. But before we start rolling out these comments, let's introduce, or I'd like to introduce you lot to our wonderful new guests here. G'day guys, how are we?
Good, thank you.
Perhaps you could, one by one, maybe we'll start with Pramela there. You can tell us who you are and why I brought you here today.
Thank you so much for having us. So we're from Cyvizen, which Kydrick and myself, we're founders on it. We have one more founder, but we're here about your privacy, your security, anonymity, and creativity. So it has to do with computers and about you establishing yourself to be safe and reliable without leaking too much. And I'm not going to say much more because I'm actually going to let Kydrick do the rest.
Okay, Kydrick, how are you, mate? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, I'm the primary architect of Cyvizen, and if, as Pramela said, it's It's basically worth just exploring and explaining as opposed to me trying to talk about my background. My fundamental background is planet scale architecture, where entire companies at very large scale can lose regions or continents and still be able to recover, still be able to move on. So that level of stability, that level of safety, is what I've effectively worked with Premilar and the other founder to integrate into a very small, very optimal machine. That's probably the simplest way to overview.
Okay, so for the layman, where's a good place to start? Maybe we should start with how limited our current cybersecurity is with your standardized PC before we move into what you guys have created, perhaps.
Sure. So we've got two cases that have just been filed recently. One of them is a big one for Apple. You can toggle off the privacy settings on your Apple device, and it does absolutely nothing. Apple still sends all the same tracking information through. There's a 2 billion class action that's been raised against them for it.
Oh my!
So we're living in a world of privacy doesn't exist. I did presentations a few years ago saying privacy is dead. As of about a year ago, we've reached a point even for things like anonymity. We have some anonymity services that are very, very popular. But a single individual with enough either technical skill or financial resource can actually track anyone across the whole web today, even through these anonymity services.
So things like VPNs and the such, they don't really do anything.
Not at all. Not unless you're concerned about your local ISP watching what you're doing.
So they provide some protection, but virtually nothing.
Nothing at a planet scale.
Rightio. What does that mean? Let's elaborate on that concept.
If we think about a fire, if you get right up close to the fire, all you see is red or white or whatever you're currently staring at. As you step back, it starts to come into picture. And you go, well, there's flames, there's twigs, there's other things in there. When you step back from the sky, you're going to see a spot of smoke and other things that becomes very distinctive. You may even see little footsteps running away that started the fire. And that's what we're basically seeing as we move the same on these anonymity services as we step further back. So if you look at for you in your local town, maybe it's going to help you. If you step back to the city level, it may still be useful to you. But once you start getting to state, country, it starts to become very iffy if it's actually doing anything. Once you get to beyond country, people looking at that level can see very clearly what's happening, and very cheaply these days.
Rightio. So you were saying, Premila, before that, it's not just a case of zero anonymity, it's probably negative zero. Did you want to maybe elaborate on that concept a little bit?
Absolutely. So the intention here is, I look at it very simply. We all go home, and if you live in the city, you lock your house. Most of us lock our houses. Admittedly, when you live in the country, you may not do that as much, but you do put value on your furniture, on your goods. Then you come and you actually put all your data and every bit of information about who you called, what you did, what you ate, every single detail about yourself onto a computer that has an operating system such as Microsoft or Apple that has proved itself to sell every bit of your data. Now, Microsoft has a handshake agreement, would be the best way of putting it, because I can't prove otherwise, a handshake agreement with the government to let itself be known what you are up to. Apple sells its data to private entities. So does Microsoft. So when I say minus zero, it's that all your safety security cameras that you hang on the wall to protect yourself, and then you've just handed everything over without you realizing it, because you actually think you're safe, because as Kydrick said, you could put a VPN, you could do all sorts of things. You could decide you're using Proton Mail. And you're actually just, you've just given it all away without everything. And I just saw someone write down there, I do not consent. Well, as
Yeah.
much as we don't consent, it doesn't matter because you actually have no avenue not to consent because you actually agreed when you signed the terms and agreements, when you opened your computer for Microsoft or Apple, you actually signed on to whatever they want to do. So it's not whether you do consent, you can say as much as you want. They still have rights over it, which is why even though there's a lawsuit pending with Apple, I'm sure they will throw every dollar to it, um, every dollar to it in respect to that actually has you basically not have your data.
It does seem like we're in a bit of trouble in that regard. And I mean, even when you did sign whatever agreement you did, whenever you open that device, they're constantly updating these privacy settings and all their security agreements and all these things. And if you want to continue to partake, it's either, their way or the highway.
Well, it's actually interesting you mentioned that because Australia did a world first where they released this legislation that says any Australian citizen that does any company around the world that provides a digital service to that Australian citizen, if the Australian government asks that company for that information on that citizen, the company must hand it over. And if they don't have the ability to do so, they have to build it. So they were the first in the world to put this legislation through.
When did that happen?
I've forgotten the exact year. It's been a few years now.
It's a couple of years. All right. Well, that's one to look up for a later date then. Okay. So now that we've...
It's actually been more than a couple of years. It's probably been close to 4 years, at least.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've always been under the impression that, we know the Five Eyes nations fundamentally spy on each other, and it's always been kind of put out to the people that in order for them to successfully spy on their own people, then Australia has to go to England or America or Canada or any of the other Five Eyes or New Zealand or whatever, and ask them to provide that information. So because they're allowed to spy on us, but we're not. The government's not supposed to spy on its own citizens. That's how they've sort of always got around it. But what you're implying here is that we've just cut out that scenario. We just go straight to the tech giants who have set this up, and we'll get them to do it.
Yep.
Well, you basically, when you go onto a Microsoft computer, and I by the way, just so you all know, I actually own a Microsoft computer myself. I have for many, many years. And I've read the terms and agreements, and in it actually states that you give them permission to improve their services by being able to track and see what you're doing. And it's said in legal jargon, but that's pretty much what they're doing. So what they don't, however, tell you is that they capture you. I worked it out. They capture, as in take a photograph of you on the other side every 12 seconds.
Wow.
Every 12 seconds, you actually have an image of what's on your screen that they on the other side have captured, which then, as a statistician as well, I know what kind of information that basically would lend itself to, because if I did that for 5 days in a row, I will know every detail about your movements. And then I can actually sell that to somebody to tell them to ring this individual at this particular time because they'll be doing XYZ, which will give them, they'll be annoyed at something, so they might actually answer the phone call.
Right. That's kind of like character profiling in a sense.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've got other products on the market, like, say, O&O, Shut Up 10. How effective is that? Because it basically boasts that it can cut out all that telemetry data.
I'm going to leave that one to you, Kydrick.
No. So if we're talking mobile phones, then you've got the billing exchange. So we use telelocation instead of triangulation. And what it basically means is whenever your phone moves between billing towers, as it gets to the new billing tower, it sends the tower the GPS coordinates to. That's
Right.
you can't turn that off. That's built into the fundamental way the SIM operating system billing system works. So if someone's saying they can turn a mobile phone tracking off at that level, it's probably not a wise claim to make.
Well, O&O is a product. Well, I mean, I got onto a while ago. I think it was I think Barnacle,'s I think the guy was who sort of had this YouTube channel. He reckons he was a former Microsoft programmer sort of thing, and he was pretty upset about the Windows 10 spying on people to the extent that he sells T-shirts that say Windows 10 is spying on you, and he promoted the O&O software for desktop users. I don't know that there's a mobile phone version of it, but it sort of helps you go through and turn off all those sort of settings and blocks the telemetry, but one of the things I notice every time Microsoft does an update, it turns all those things back on, and you've got to go back in and turn them back off again. So how effective, are you aware of that software? Or?
Yeah, there's something like 500 plus settings that need to be turned off. It's a bit ridiculous.
Yeah,
I mean, that software is probably going to help you. It's going to reduce your overall data that's being transmitted back and forward, but your fundamental problem is still it's the Microsoft operating system.
yeah.
And there are things that we have seen from our own experience where we've removed Windows from hardware and we've never been able to put an operating system back on that hardware.
Oh,
and
wow.
when we delved into the investigating what actually happened, why can't we install any operating system on this thing? We found it's because there were physical firmware registers that are supposed to be set by the manufacturer, and they weren't. But
So
the
is this
factory install would bypass this and allow permissions to come through because there's no restriction of saying what it is.
So we're
That
talking
was
about,
our
say,
discovery.
and is this to say like a pre-built device? Like, I've bought a laptop out of the box, it's come with Microsoft and all that. What about, say, I built a personal, desktop computer, put all the parts together myself, and then I install Windows. If I format the hard drive and then say want to try put Linux on it or something like that, do we still encounter the same issue?
No.
So it's definitely sort of a pre-built sort of construct, similar to sort of like Android and Apple phones, where they've sort of got a pre-built sort of setup in it.
That's what we saw in our testing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So here's the thing. If you're going to go out and build yourself a computer, as you've just described, my question to you would be, why would you put Windows on?
Because it runs the software I need it to run.
Well, here's the thing. If you can develop a relationship with people who actually can develop the software you need to run without utilizing Windows, so that you could actually maintain your privacy and your security and still maintain creativity in the process, wouldn't you take that opportunity?
Oh, yeah. And I believe this is a wonderful gateway into you explaining how you're going to help me.
Okay, so I'm actually going to handball this to Kydrick for the simple fact that I can, because I'm going to talk from the end user point of view instead of from the tech point of view, because I want to bring a delineation. Also, we have the presentation as to what it is that Cyvizen is actually here about. And you've heard me talk. But
so shall we bring that presentation up and get straight into it, or is there something else you'd like to say beforehand?
I'm just going to say that if I'm talking and you feel like you're falling asleep, just write zzz in the channel and I'll try to be more dynamic.
No worries. All right, well, let's bring this presentation up then. So here we have this wonderful little screen to start with, and let's move. So Cyber Aldeny. Okay, so perhaps let's explain, what's that? Why have you written it in that manner?
So Cyvizen is an acronym. It means cyber survival denizen, or native survival in cyberspace. That's our whole goal with what Cyvizen is supposed to be about. So it becomes as easy for you to interact and use your computer systems and networks and the whole thing as it is to just live life.
Okay.
So
everybody got that?
before we move forward with that as well, just quickly, cyber survival denizen, as Kybrik put it, is survival in cyberspace. It's not just survival in the internet, because the internet is not cyberspace alone. There is a lot more to cyberspace that people are not aware of. So just put that in context, it will become clearer in a moment.
Okay, cool. Because like I mean, I'm a little bit perplexed on the concept. I've got a bit of a grasp on it. I mean, I am somewhat tech savvy. You guys, are, as we were saying before, are about to give me a good spanking on the idea of computing. I like to think I know a bit, but I'm about to be educated and schooled good and proper myself here. But we've also got to try to get this across to people who probably just learned how to turn the computer on last week. So, shall we proceed?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll let you take it from here. Tell me to click the button when you need it.
Yep. Okay, so Cyvizen is about digital freedom. Now, if you're wanting to have any form of digital freedom, you have to have unification and architectural alignment of three components: hardware, an operating system, and a network. If any one of those is significantly compromised, forget it. You just can't strive towards this. Now, if you can click down, we've got down it, so it kind of goes down and then right on the presentations.
Yep.
Cyvizen is not designed or targeting oligopoly. We need to make that abundantly clear. We're focused on these points to provide your ability to resist data loss, isolation, marketing, metadata, social engineering, social profiling, and World Wide Web sandboxing. So we're not talking about anti-government or any of the extreme groups that tend to exist somewhere out there. We're talking about personal recognition and safety in a heavily marketed world where you're the product. Let's stop that part.
Yeah.
Okay, right?
So we start off. So obviously we're preventing the loss of data, so that I'm guessing, in a sense, a security system that blocks people from deleting stuff from your machine. Obviously, we want to isolate ourselves. Marketing. So is this to sort of prevent people from pushing a marketing product on you through, pop-ups and such?
Yeah.
It's not that. Just pop-ups. It's about the... You go for it, Carmen.
No. You were saying...
It's the whole creating a profile of who you are, what your life is going to be. We have some marketing profiles today that are so well put together, and by we I don't mean us, I mean they exist out there, that they're so well put together, they can work out if you post when you've had a child, they're going to know roughly when they're going to go to school, they're going to know which school they're going to go to, and they're going to present certain information, and they advertise these slots to companies as a bidding war, so that they're in front of that person to influence them at the right time when the question's being asked. That level of invasion is, we believe, a little bit too extreme.
Oh, yeah. I mean, especially having young kids myself, it's alarm bells are ringing.
Well, Barry, you just said, you imagine the Truman Show when it first came out and how people reacted to it. Well, we're living the Truman Show. Yeah. That little marketing, that's the Truman Show.
All right. And this obviously leads us into the metadata created for such marketing purposes.
Mm-hmm.
And which then you've covered the social engineering construct in that, where they've taken that character profile based on how you use a certain device in order to guide you to specific concepts. And the social profiling obviously interchanges with that. But www.sandboxing, now there's a concept that I think is going to throw a few people. Give us a bit of a rundown.
I'm going to pass that one to Primla.
Oh, I knew you were going to do that. Okay, so how many of you out there believe that the internet is cyberspace, or everything that is to do with www is it? Because that's an
deafening
important...
silence, sorry.
Yeah, deafening silence is right. Wow. Thanks, Country. So, if I told you that this little chapstick of mine, this little thing, this is the internet.
Mm-hmm.
This is the capacity. It holds everything. It holds the net as we know it. It holds the grey net. It also holds the dark web. Everything is here. Okay. Now, I'm sitting in a house that's on an acreage, and that's cyberspace. So I have the internet in my hand, and I can't even access without getting up and walking. All of the space around me is cyberspace. And we don't even access that. We don't go anywhere near it. It can be accessed, and people in IT have been utilizing it, but it is not, very simply put, this little space is where all your little governments, all your, this is the real estate that everybody is bidding for, this little space. And then the rest of the space is hidden away from you so that you don't actually know you have freedom available to you to create. And that's where we come in, because the reality is, for us, we're not interested in living on this little chapstick. Well, I'm not.
So I'm feeling a little confused, so it means I'm pretty sure everybody else who has a lesser understanding than I do. So what exactly does sandboxing mean? Is that like, is the idea that everybody's view of cyberspace has been condensed into that sandbox? That chapstick is the sandbox.
It's the sandbox. That's it. This is what you believe. You believe. This is the reality we now exist. How many of you put in, without even thinking about it, you go www and you type in whatever the URL is, and you believe that is it. That is what the whole world of internet and connecting and all of that is. So it's literally like saying, imagine taking, I'll give you a better example. Imagine taking the whole world, the entire world as we know it, all the different countries. You know, you've got Europe, you've got Africa, you've got Australia, you've got all the different countries, but we only know of New York. Not the America, we only know of New York. And everybody wants to be in New York. Everybody wants to have a house, apartment, a job, a husband, a wife, a partner, and everything else in New York. Only New York. Because New York is where you've been told is where you're going to make it. You've just been
promised land.
It's the promised land. The rest of the world doesn't need to be there. You don't really care. Don't worry about it. In fact, it's so well hidden that you don't even know it exists. You literally get born, you get tutelage, and then you go to New York. And that's it. That's
sounds like a lot of people living in the world as it is, in a sense. You know, I think there's a lot of people who, you know, sort of live, born, die in the same places and never really going outside the world. So it's an interesting concept to, you know, applies to cyberspace as well.
It is. And the interesting part for us here now is when the world got to actually interact in this World Wide Web conversation, we truly believe we had freedom. You really thought, oh my God, you know, I don't have to go to the Encyclopedia Britannica or go down to the library or do anything. You suddenly got Google. And I mean, how many of us have all together said Google God or God is Google, whichever it is? Just go Google it. Google will tell you everything is Google. Well,
yeah, it's the catchphrase of the century, really.
It is. Now, pretty much, Google is one of the largest companies, but Google is in the internet. And what has occurred is your freedom has come at a price. And that price is you being placed into this sandbox, and you have now become the product. Except you don't know you're the product.
All right.
It's a scary world.
Yes, I think we've explored that concept. All right, so how do we get out of the sandbox and start playing in the rest of the playground?
Hydric.
That would be Cyvizen.
Yeah.
We can end the presentation there. That's
that's it, done. We don't need to worry about all the rest of these pages. No, all right, let's keep diving in. So, next page. Go for it, guys.
Yep. So, you know, we said we have to have hardware, operating system, and network come together. So in terms of hardware, let's talk about that. Cyvizen, we're an OEM manufacturer, so we make the hardware. We run that whole life cycle. It's built to our specifications. We've partnered with the
So,
Taiwanese
just
company.
going to stop you there, sorry, for a second. There's probably a lot of people who don't even know what OEM stands for. Can we just go on that
Original
one for a second?
Equipment Manufacturer.
Right.
So the M and manufacturer is kind of redundant, but most people write it that way for that reason.
Okay.
So if
Continue,
you've used Alienware machines, or you've seen these high-end Alienware gaming machines in JB Hi-Fi, this is the same manufacturer. Alienware is actually just using their hardware. But they also do this other extreme end of the spectrum that people don't know about, which is high-end IT professional. So if you're an IT professional who travels data center to data center to data center all the time as part of your work, you're going to be using one of these machines. And it's typically going to be their military hardened Ultrabook. So that's hardened to the 810 military endurance specification. And because we've got access to this manufacturer, we always ship the latest hardware. Generally within 2 weeks of something being released as new, we're shipping it. We do have assembly in Australia. So there's physical support if there's something that goes wrong hardware-wise. You send it back to on continent. You don't have to send it to America or somewhere else and worry about getting lost in the mail. And the factory ships it direct. Now, I've used these, and other people in Cyvizen have used these globally since 2007. So we've given them a pretty good road test.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes. Scary stuff constantly being watched. Okay, cool. So, I guess we'll just move on from there. I got that. Anybody in the audience confused, please feel free to ask a question. Next page.
All right. So the reason we talked about hardware is this thing called downfall. Now, downfall is a critical weakness found in billions of modern processors used in personal and cloud computers. It enables a user to access and steal data from other users who share the same computer. This is the quote by the guy who discovered downfall. The link's there. It's kind of, he does it in a very nice way, but it's a lot more invasive than that first appears to be. So if you scroll down. Now, when it comes to downfall, downfall was not talked about for 12 months. When Daniel discovered it, he literally said, "This is so critical, I'm not going to make any public information aware for 12 months. I'm going to contact the manufacturer, and you've got 12 months to fix it, Intel." And they tried after month 6, but it's a hardware fault, which makes it difficult. And where were we at today? When it was publicly released, for 3 days, all of the industry publications talked about it, and that was it. Because of the scope of effect, media has a mandate on them that they cannot cause mass panic. So that's why you probably haven't heard of downfall, because it's under that classification. You can visit a website and you can trigger the downfall vulnerability. Yes, your keyring can be stolen, your banking details, your crypto wallets, passwords, all of these things can be lifted off your machine without you knowing, just by visiting a website that's running downfall code if you have the hardware fault. We can go down.
Okay, well, let's just dive into that a little bit deeper, or does the next page dive into this deeper, or am I jumping the gun by inquiring here, or?
It goes in deeper. So maybe if we finish this section and then go into questions.
All right. Continue.
So it's like a rabbit hole with downfall. It just gets worse.
Yeah.
So it affects 9 years of computers. This is how far it goes. So if you have a computer that's within the last 9 years, you're probably affected by it. That's the reality of it. There is no ability to detect it because of the physical location of where the hardware is broken. So your antivirus is useless. Your physical hardware isolation that Intel spent millions and millions on developing to protect you from other rogue pieces of firmware doesn't work. The same with software and virtual machines. We can keep going.
Okay, we might actually find some questions before we go into a remedy. If anybody has some questions, including yourself.
Are they selling stuff? I think we addressed that earlier. Yes, they most certainly are. Yeah, definitely. If you've allowed your, particularly, I've found that, the more settings you turn off, the less that happens. So a lot of it is going through the setting. You know, as I, you know, in my limited understandings, I always explain to people, you know, read the settings, go through them. If you don't understand them, you know, punch it into DuckDuckGo, because I don't want to use Google. All right. Well, sorry, we're just a little bit late. We're 40 minutes in. I'm not going that far back. Sorry, mate. You're gonna have to go and check it out on the rerun. Always amazing. Thank you. All right. So, downfall.
Okay.
So what you're saying is fundamentally it's a hardware problem, and it doesn't matter what operating system or what, you know, a software that stacks on top of it. So for those who don't quite comprehend it, you've got, you know, the physical device, you know, and within the physical device you have, you know, the BIOS settings, which fundamentally tell the machine, hey, this is a camera, this is a hard drive, this is whatever components, and then you have the operating system over the top that then, you know, runs the programs, and then you have allows the platforms for the programs, and then the programs come in and do whatever you want, whether it's, you know, painting, drawing, writing, typing, you know, and all the rest. Fair? Yep. Would you say that's a good basic rundown?
That's a pretty good basic rundown. I'd also equate it to your engine block in your car. If your engine block is cracked, it's going to bite you, right? There's no escape. Everyone understands that example. There's no escaping a broken engine block. At some point, you're going to be in trouble.
Definitely.
So
we're looking at like
sorry,
so basically what you're saying is all the hardware that's been sold for a very long time has fundamentally got a big crack in the engine block, and somehow we're still getting around in it.
Yep, because you don't know. But if you knew about it, you'd probably be a little bit more concerned.
Definitely. And, you know, being a wonderful wizard with cars, it wouldn't be surprised that I'd be driving around with a crack in the engine block and wouldn't know.
No.
Well, you can join 3.5 billion people, because that's the reality of what downfall actually affects. Right now, 3.5 billion people, or 70% of all computers worldwide, are affected by this darn thing. That's an insane number to comprehend.
So at what point, if say I bought, you know, computer parts in the last 6 months, I'm good?
No. If you've got hardware that's newer than 12th generation, you're okay.
Okay,
which is
so
manufactured from 4th of January 2022.
Rightio. Okay, cool. Well, I'm feeling a little bit better about that, because what I'm running right now is 12th gen, so it's all good.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Somebody asked about whether you could put Cyvizen onto a computer, operating computer already. But there are two parts to this. One, we tried that. Two, that was our intention. That was really our intention when we first started with Cyvizen to do this. And then downfall happened, or it got released. And we both, Kybik and I, were here in Far North Queensland, and we both went, oh, well, what do we do? This is not workable now, because we can't actually have it, because it doesn't matter whether you have a Linux system, whether you have Microsoft or Apple. If your computer is young, well, the 9-year period, that means it is older than the 4th of January 2022, and you haven't gone and bought at that point in time the hardware with the 11th gen Intel, then maybe, but we can't actually guarantee it. So we went, no, we had to make a choice, and we made the choice to say the best thing we can do is actually support hardware, actually get hardware that has the operating system, because that way we know you're going to have the settings you want, and we can teach you how to do them, but you will have that security you require. So it was a choice to do that.
Yeah. And obviously a big awakening if you spent so much time developing something, and then this big reality check comes in and forced you guys to reevaluate where you were at and what you were doing.
Yeah. So just so everyone is aware very clearly, when we started this, we have had our long-term plan was to take things gradually, but we have had in the last 6 months 2 literal jump starts that have made us go from 0 to 100, and then again 0 to 100 twice, and then possibly maybe a third time. We have accelerated at a speed that we cannot even fathom. Sometimes I go, I don't want to be in Kybik space. Please shouldn't come here, because when we come together, it seems to just happen. It's like,
Right.
But it's a good thing because
Yeah.
the fact is we're actually very actively present to what's happening globally. And there's just so much happening globally in the tech world,
Yeah.
but it's actually influencing you on every front of your normal day-to-day living. So you can't escape it.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think it's just a tech thing. It seems to be absolutely everything. And any direction I look, as a avid rabbit hole jumper, it just keeps going and going and going. And we do seem to be in that biblical construct of the quickening. Shit's just coming at us from every angle at the moment. And it's so hard to, where do I look first, But without going off on a tangent, let's continue down this path again. So let's hit the right button here. And we're right to move along now.
We can, yeah. That's just that Microsoft stuff people have read. So the next part's operating system. We've talked about hardware. Let's talk about what we originally started with. Now, I do want to flag that we originally started with Cyvizen actually intending it to be open source. We just wanted to get it into as many people's hands as possible. But when things like Downfall turned up and us having to now bind into hardware in a very close and very intimate relationship, we just don't do that anymore. We can't do it. So we're trying to do this to you as easily as we can and to guide through this journey, because cyberspace is massive. So Cyvizen's operating system has what's called a scorched earth capability. Now, those that aren't familiar with the term, scorched earth is the most destructive thing that you can do. You literally walk out your house, throw a torch in behind you, burn it to the ground, knowing that you can fully recover. And if you can survive that, you're in a pretty good position. So we've done this where Cyvizen can do that digitally. So if your machine is stolen, lost, or destroyed, we are the only operating system in existence with 100% recovery of your personalization and data. So this means your personal stuff is safe, your fonts, your icon colors, all of those little tweaks that you've done. Now, these tweaks typically take 30 days to reset up whenever you swap machines. You've probably been frustrated going, the new computer experience is horrible. Every time you move to Windows, new update.
Yeah,
so we can
I've wrestled with that quite a lot over the years.
I think we all have.
Your machine becomes you. It becomes your customized happy land, and whenever you swap hardware, that follows you around.
Yeah. So with what you're saying with one of your systems is, we had an old Cyvizen machine, and man, I really don't want to have to set up when I buy the new one 3 years later or whatnot. That just goes straight over to the new one, no hiccups.
Yep, it actually does to this to the point that I was up north, Cardinal, Queensland, in January. I decided to risk one of the crossing the rivers.
No. He was testing. He was testing the computer, for water security and capability.
Okay.
So,
will this sink or float, sort of thing?
Yeah, and let's say that that it doesn't matter how hardened your thing is, it doesn't like being underwater.
Okay. It's like that sports watch I had when I was a kid that said it was safe for 10 meters and it didn't last one.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
So I phoned up the factory. I said, I'm away for the next 2 weeks. I'm going to now do a physical 2 weeks shutdown holiday because I got no choice. I picked up the laptop when I got back home, came home. Within an hour, I was exactly where I was the last time I used the other machine. No data loss.
Okay, cool. But you bricked a computer in the process.
You just send that back to the factory and they charge you repair fees for water damage.
Okay, cool. But don't try this at home, kids.
No, I wouldn't recommend trying this at home.
All right, let's punch along, man.
Okay, so we've got them on the physical machine. We've installed a vault. Now, this is industry standard encryption. And as you move to new hardware, it actually re-baselines that vault. So say it would take 100 years to decrypt it on today's hardware. If you move to a new computer with faster hardware, it'll re-index it so it's 100 years based on that complexity. We've also, and then we have a backup vault system. So we encrypt the file name and we encrypt the contents of the file. We encrypt the directory names and we obfuscate all the sizes of the files. Now, this is really important because you may not be aware, but all of your public file storage providers are required by legislation to scan for pirated material in storage. And they look for things like ISO sizes, they look for file structures, they look for names, not even on disk sizes, but written sizes. And then if they find it, they have to report it.
Right.
So I'm not going to
So does
talk
it
about
fit
anything.
the fingerprint?
Pretty much. And whatever you read into that is what you read into that.
Yeah.
We can do
No, I got
incremental
it.
changes, so you don't have to back up everything every single time. And you can do this offline. So if you just go, I want to back it up to a hard drive, go ahead. Or you can use one of our 13 physical cloud regions we have around the world.
All right. So it sounds like so that covers the whole backup side of things, yeah?
Yep.
Next page.
Yep.
All right. Ephemeral. Already I'm confused by that word.
So
And I'm
ephemeral
sure
means
others are.
it means transient. Ephemeral is an IT word that means transient. It's there for a short period of time. As soon as you stop looking at it, basically it's gone.
Okay.
So all software on our machines exists in memory only. So we don't install the operating system to the hard drive like you do in traditional sense, and that's a very carefully constructed choice. So what you do is you tag the things that are important to you. Like you go through life and you think about it. We have digital cameras today. We take millions of photos. Let's face it. Everyone takes photos of their breakfast and dinner and lunch and the dog. And you go back through your photos and you're like, 99% of the photos I took are rubbish. Delete. But you can also do it the other way around. What if you knew that in 24 hours your stuff would disappear? So you just go, I'm only going to tag the photos I'm interested in. Same result, one's faster.
Okay.
So what we do is by using the ephemeral approach, your important things stay there, but anything that's not important to you just disappears. So we actually erase the operating system when the computer's turned off. This is where it starts to get a little scary. You turn the computer off, the operating system goes away.
Okay.
When you turn the computer back on, you go for it.
So it's like reborn every time you turn it on.
It is.
It is.
Wow. How long's the boot up time with something like that?
11 seconds.
Straight.
Okay.
That's some serious programming.
He's gone under 15 seconds, but it's actually 11 seconds and less sometimes.
That takes a good half hour to install Windows.
Nope. 11 seconds.
The hell are they doing with the rest of that time?
Getting your data.
Giving me that alien anal probe. Rightio.
So you can also use this for 90,000 pieces of software. So currently people's process of going, I need a PDF reader. What do? You go bring up my favorite browser, go to my favorite search engine, type what is the safest PDF or the best PDF reader for me, and you get presented with like 100 or 200 options, and then you effectively pick one. If you're on a Windows platform, you hope that there's no spyware installed, and then you try it and you go, this is rubbish. And then you go to the uninstaller, which was made by the guy who wrote the software, and you sort of trust that they're going to clean up after themselves and not leave anything to track behind. And that seems like a little mad circle because, well, it probably is. We have the same process. All software is now ephemeral. So you can go to 90,000 pieces of software and you can literally just type in Cyvizen and then say PDF, and it'll bring up a list of PDF software on your machine. And then you can go, I want to try that one. And it will install it in a safe memory location, not on the physical machine. You try it. When you press the X button and close it down, it erases it. It's gone.
Wow. This is some pretty mind-blowing stuff, man.
And then we got privacy. So we talked about that legislation. When we talk about tyranny, we're particularly mentioning that legislation there. That was one of our architectural design points, is how can we stop this legislation from being invasive to everyone on the planet?
Yeah,
so we
they can write all the laws they want. You've got the software that says,
Yes. Yes, because we can't do it, right? The most powerful people in this thing is the operating system itself, the ones writing it. So we can't administer your computer. There's no concept of being able to do that. And we can't send metadata because you're the only one who owns your data. And that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So if we can't do it, we can't be forced to do it.
Yeah. I like it. I like it. All right, moving along then.
Yep. So we made the operating system because of data sovereignty. And this is where we talked about Apple's tracking, even though it isn't what it should be, that the turning the privacy settings off doesn't actually respect that. They still send the privacy data through. And we've also got OpenAI and Microsoft now being accused on a court class action of secret scraping. If you linked OpenAI to one of your, like Slack or one of those, it didn't just pull in what you asked it to, it grabbed everything it could and pulled that in to build a profile on you.
And
so if you played with OpenAI, you're in trouble.
Yeah. So to the extent that it hasn't, like, say you've got a browser plugin for OpenAI, like, so a lot of these browsers are adding that in these days. Is it just looking at your browser or your whole machine?
The browser can see the whole machine.
Right. So it's basically like the, the doggy door and the back door step there,
Oh, yeah. So if we take Firefox, right? Firefox is an independent foundation. Occasionally they receive huge amounts of money from Google, but that's just part of the relationship of keeping the foundation alive. Firefox recently released a creep index, and I encourage everybody to have a look at the creep index. They've rated the current creep index out of 100, as this year we're 74 out of 100. We're pretty high on the creepy scale. And one of these reasons is because Nissan, we get the right manufacturer, Nissan in their latest cars tracks how many times you have sex in your vehicle. It tracks your genetic material. You can go look it up. Go type in the creep index report for Mozilla, and it's right there. So don't take my word for it. Go and look at what they're saying as the foundation.
I'm glad I'm too old for those kind of shenanigans.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of people in the room who just went, I just bought a brand new Nissan, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, wow. Wow, so I know there's a couple of people in this room are going, I told you my 1982 car was the bee's knees.
Well, you know how expensive some of those cars are now?
Yeah.
So let's come back to Firefox. If we come back to Firefox, there's a huge amount of privacy work that's been put into Firefox, but that's all turned off because Firefox is the universal platform. There's another project called LibreWolf, which turns all of that on.
Let's just go into that again. So the browser itself has the ability to not track you, but they just turn it off. You've got to manually go in and turn it off. Is that what you're saying?
They're all opt-in settings. You've actually got to manually go in and turn on all of the privacy settings, and there are hundreds of them. Because Firefox is designed by people who are very passionate about privacy, but they can't force that decision on people. You can't force privacy or security on someone when they want convenience.
But we can, force them to, transmit their sexual behaviors whilst in a car.
Yes, because you purchased the car and you didn't read the terms and conditions. And we collect your genetic
upside down
material.
Place. Very upside down world we live in.
So if you look at LibreWolf, which does turn all those settings on, then that's another alternative to Firefox you can use. Cyvizen uses that. But then we back some of those settings off to be more anonymous than private. That's just because there's a line between them you've got to work on.
All right. So are we at the next slide now?
Yep.
Sure.
Let's.
I have no idea where we are actually. Yes.
We're there. Sorry.
Yeah, definitely next slide.
Okay. Cool.
Rein me in if you
laptops.
need to.
No, it's all right. It's all right. I'm finding this very fascinating. I just want to, make sure we don't go too far off topic because I'm very good at that too. So, laptops.
So data sovereignty. Yep. A laptop is stolen every 53 seconds. 57% of all identity theft to date has come from laptop theft. Now, let's hold that in the light of downfall. You don't need to steal the laptop anymore. You can just take
Okay.
it. So we're going to see identity
don't
theft
worry
go
about.
up.
So we don't need to kick in the door and break the windows and sneak in with the balaclava and all that during the night and typical Hollywood style. We can just sit there more like Neo in the Matrix and just hack in through the back door.
That's right. You can get someone to send you a website that looks like something that you'd like to click on, that just takes you to a site running down full code, and then all of a sudden your identity's been stolen and you don't even know.
Awesome.
The average cost to an individual to have their laptop stolen is $49,246 US. Now let's put that
impressive.
in context.
Yeah, given that the average laptop's about $1,500, $2,000.
Yep, that's because people don't understand the value of what's on their machines. And you go, I just got a couple photos of my kids. Oh yeah, to the right buyer, that's worth a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah.
So let's put that in perspective. According to the Australian statistics, the average Australian wage is about $45,000.
Right.
Now, the insurance companies in Australia all unanimously say that the average car purchase is 50% of the Australian wage. Now, the first thing we do when we buy a car is we insure it, we drive it home, we lock it up. We don't often leave the keys in the vehicle, and we often put it under a garage because we consider that a high-value investment. But like you just pointed out, we think the entire value of a computer is maybe $1,500, $2,000. We don't insure it. We take it with us everywhere we go. We don't tie it to anything, and we don't protect it in any way. But it's actually worth 49,000 US, or about 75,000 Aussie, 3 cars. Now, if you got 3 cars sitting outside your garage and they're not insured, and the keys are in the ignition, and someone walked off with them, you'd be like, I was an idiot. I'm not calling anyone an idiot, by the way.
Yeah. It was a self-confession moment, I believe. That's the way you pitched it.
He's the one that took the computer for a swim.
She's not going to let you live that down, eh?
No, I will never live.
All right, so slide backs again. Next slide.
So if your hardware's stolen, say you have backups, so you're thought ahead, you're like, I'm good. Try and get the same physical machine that was stolen. They keep swapping out. You might get the one from the bargain basement at JB. You got no chance of getting that thing again. And then try to get the same operating system that you had. Well, like you said, Windows keeps pushing new updates, and they're a whole different beast. So you can't guarantee your backup will ever work. And this is the reality. We're seeing even Apple has come forward saying their time machine backups cannot be relied upon. Well, what are you supposed to do if the backup from the operating system manufacturer isn't trustworthy?
Yeah.
And all your personalization stuff, that's not backed up, as I said, 30 days to retweak. So we can move on to the next one.
Okay, this looks complicated.
Yep. But this is the third part. You need to have the hardware, the operating system, and the network in alignment. Yeah, there's a huge amount of talk about decentralized being the way. And the reason we put this
and we're looking at this picture when we speak of this, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
So the one that all of the governments are currently telling you is evil is the one to the left, centralized. They're saying that's failed, that's the worst thing we can ever do, and decentralized is the way. All they did is stick 2 letters in front of it, D.
Yeah, because it's still connected.
It
just looks a little neater.
That's it. When you operate at a large scale, it's the same damn thing.
Yep.
So the solution is the one on the right, distributed.
And again, it still looks rather interconnected.
It is, because that's how the internet works itself.
Okay.
But
that's similar to, say, a torrenting sort of structure where everybody kind of has a little piece.
Yep. So we can go to the next slide.
Okay. Now, for those who didn't understand a word of what I just said, the idea of the torrenting construct is that, let's say the 3 of us all have this, file here that we're referring to, but we all have we may all have the total file, but anybody can grab, say, piece 1 from me and piece 2 from, Premila and piece 3 from Kydrick here, and download all the 3 of those pieces from 3 different sources at the same time. Let's continue.
All right. So we've had to develop a network. We've had to do this since 2016 was actually when it was first created. So the network is anonymous by default. It doesn't know who you are. And you can't link pieces of the network to say, hey, that's who they are. Each piece is anonymous. You have a direct connection to cyberspace. Now, the network that we use is text only at this time. So it allows you to do things like messages, informational pages. So you could do your Far North Queensland Freedom Network as a text page in this network. And then anyone can come to it and browse it and see that information, knowing that it's anonymous. It's anonymous by default.
Right.
It
But
can
I
support
can't do video?
You can't do video at this time on this network. We're working on it. Give us time. This is
that's all right. I just want to get those
way.
lines stacked as where are we, you know? So no, that's cool. Well, you know, I don't want to I'm not poo-pooing the system. I just want to make sure, where am I? Where are we?
Yep. So now we're at text. We can communicate. The most basic level of human communication is enabled. Tick.
Yeah. Well, at least it's not Morse code, because I mean, I got SOS. You know, that's about as far as I got.
It might turn out that we might need Morse code in the future, but hey.
Better break out that old spy handbook I had when I was 6 years old then.
So we can support any medium a digital signal can be transmitted over. Now, I'm just going to take a bit to let this sink in. So the VHF frequencies that we used to have free-to-air TV on, we can actually build a network across those.
Ah, so we're rolling back to an analog system.
If we want to. We can use any technology that can support a digital signal, including paper.
Analog supports as digital.
Yeah, you can run a modem, put a modem together that can run across your analog systems. Like on UHF, you can run a 1200 baud modem. I mean, people today go, that's ridiculously slow. But wait, we're talking text. As soon as you talk video or pictures, you need a lot more bandwidth. You don't need that for text. That's why we're starting with text.
Okay, cool.
So you can even use paper. Yeah, the paper stuff gets really freaky really quickly, because with paper, I mean, literally, you could say, okay, I have someone that I know is going to come through my town in the next 3 or 4 weeks. I don't know when they're going to come through, but I'd like to leave a message for them. It could be free beer at my house, but I don't want the rest of the town coming to my house and drinking my free beer.
So we're not going to nail it to the old post tree like they did once upon a time. We need a secret tree.
You're absolutely going to nail it to that same post tree that you nailed it to in the past.
Oh, okay.
Because the QR code generated, anyone can walk up and scan it, but it won't show the message. Right. Because it's anonymous by default. So it actually only shows the message to the receiver that it's supposed to go to.
Okay, so we can still post it out for the whole world to see, but because they don't understand the encryption, they can't get a message.
Yep. And this means you can actually, so if you had messages you needed to send, you can send them through the post service and know that they'll reach their destination thanks to courtesy of whichever courier you're using, and that's never gone through something that's digitally watched.
Awesome. Okay, I like it.
Okay.
Everybody got that? Next slide. All right.
Now we start getting into the technical parts. So this is where
people's heads weren't swimming before. They're about to now.
Before Kyrick goes there, let me explain this. Let me say this like this.
Okay.
Before we go in there, because it might make people sort of realize. I use my Cyvizen computer. I don't get spam calls. I don't get any advertising. I don't get anything. To the stage where when I'm in there and I've used my LibreWolf, which is my browser that has DuckDuckGo on it, and does it actually? I don't know what it has. Might not have that. It does?
Well, let's just say it's DuckDuckGo for the sake of argument.
It is. Okay, so, but if I go in there and I do what I have to do, and for example, a very simple one would be Amazon for Prime. So I have my Prime Video that I watch movies on. And when I go onto my computer in Microsoft, it actually doesn't show me my history.
Okay.
This is important to get. Okay, I'm just laying the foundation so you can understand what's occurring. It doesn't show me that history that I've been doing this. It says I've watched these movies, but it doesn't actually give me where the movie I've watched it from. Unlike,
Okay.
yeah. Now I'm going to pass you to Kyrie.
So is that kind of like saying that the Cyvizen computer is kind of like, you know, the watchdog in between?
I don't know if you want to call it a watchdog as such.
Or well, maybe
think
a
it would
gate
be
of
more-
some sort.
Yeah,
A
it's
gatekeeper.
Yeah, it's more like a gate of some sort. It's
Okay.
it's like having Cyvizen is where you house yourself. You house yourself there. What
Yeah.
you have in the way we've designed it is that you've actually got a moat around your house, and you need the
Yeah.
bridge to be able to utilize it so that you can go in and out. But that bridge is designed in a very specific way that only certain individuals can come in.
Okay. So it's got like some sort of sci-fi field, and if you don't have the right credentials when you walk through it, you get zapped.
Yes, sort of. You
Yep.
won't be allowed in.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
But Hydrick, all yours.
All right. So we're back to the slide, are we, mate?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, so as Premila mentioned before, cyberspace is massive. Right? Now everyone here has been exposed to cyberspace, and I want to get this across. So you've been exposed to cyberspace, you just haven't recognized it. So World Wide Web is a piece of cyberspace. Email is another piece of cyberspace. So that's important to understand. You've actually been using cyberspace a bit more raw than you thought you have to date. So what we've done is we've in the network process, because the network effectively blends in with cyberspace, is how this all interacts. We've isolated pieces of cyberspace into spheres. Each sphere is anonymous by default. So you have an ID that exists within that sphere only, and that becomes you in that sphere. So we can be authoritative. We can do things like one-way tracing, where if we needed to integrate with a digital ID system, for example, we can do that, provide all of those 100 points of ID in that sphere to whatever World Wide Web system needs it. And it can be traced only to that sphere. That's the end of it. You can't backtrace. It would be incredibly difficult. I can't say can't because obviously it's recorded. We can't. It's difficult to backtrace past that. And we use an offline first peer-to-peer graph optimized technology. That's the simplest way to try to explain it. It is specifically designed for freedom by people who are very, very, very focused on freedom and have been talking on freedom for over 10 years. So there's zones in here. There's a whole zone where anyone can add, change, or remove data. So it's like a notice board. Anyone can put stuff up, anyone can take stuff down, anyone can rip stuff up. Then you've got another area, which is a notice board, which you've only got the key to. So you can add, change, or remove data. You can choose to have a vault inside that, which is locked up with a second key. And anything not inside that vault, other people can see. So you got a way of showing the world what you want them to see, while still also having stuff that you're not ready for them to see yet.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a third area where anyone can write once, but you can't change or remove it after it's been done. Now, where this is massively important is, let's say North Queensland Freedom Network was using this. You would write a point in this last area saying, this is my broadcast zone. If I want to send a message to all of my people, it will only ever be updated at this point. And then you would point that to the area that you own. So, and change the pointer when you want to change a new message. So you have an authoritative way which can't be intercepted and can't be manipulated to know that you communicated with someone.
And that fundamentally answers this question. So this is a way around the whole mis and disinformation act, so to speak?
No, that's a bit more complicated subject. This is a more...
I had a feeling it might be.
This is more... there's a concept called man-in-the-middle attack. This is a way around that. Now, man-in-the-middle attack, if it's done at the scale, never fails. It's one of the oldest ways of getting stuff from other people.
Yeah.
So this is the way to say no more man-in-the-middle attacks. This is an authoritative message from me or for North Queensland Freedom Network. to my subscribers and to people that have wanted
Yeah.
to listen to my updates.
Yeah, so nobody else can intervene, which fundamentally, does the government use this system at this particular juncture? I'd say no.
Let's go with that. Yes.
Cool. And can you give a summary of your suggestions as to what everyone should do at the end of this? I believe the simple answer to this would be keep watching. So,
Okay, next slide.
we've
Yep.
covered this slide, yeah?
Yep, unless there's questions specifically on this.
Anyone got any questions specifically to that scenario? I think I've got my head around it myself. But does everybody else? That's the $1 million question. Maybe those questions will pop up as we go, as we proceed. Otherwise, we might be here for the rest of the night.
So we did the network. Following the same process, we did the network because of digital ID.
Yep.
Now, understand 99% of all companies on the World Wide Web are decentralized, centralized. We said that's the same thing, and own all the data you provide them. So only 1% of technology created in the World Wide Web has any concept of safety, freedom, or privacy, or anonymity. This is how narrow the margin is you're playing in.
Right.
Decentralized ID has been rolled out in over 135 governments to date. W3C, which is the standard organization, it's the W3 Consortium or World Wide Web Consortium. They set the standards for how the World Wide Web operates, what it's going to do, and where it's going to progress to. They are standardizing personal, corporate, and government adoption of digital ID. They're doing that now. They've been doing that since 2007.
Yeah.
Now, somebody put the idea to me the other day, and I'm curious to hit you guys up on it. Is that trying to implement a system of worldwide digital ID is one horrendously huge undertaking. How possible is it for them to actually logistically achieve such a thing?
Well, interesting today, it was in the news. The European Union has decided by the end of this year that digital ID is to be implemented as per the standards not recognized, not set by the W3C standards, but less than. And it's also shown that what they're about to hand over is actually 100% hackable. So your data is going to free float out there in such a manner that you're pretty much handing it over to anybody who wants to become you. And then they will turn around and make it sound like, oh, they didn't do anything. But the European Union has actually stated that by 2025, it's not that by 2020, by 2025, this will be completed. They're going to launch it by the end of this year.
Do you think they have a hope in hell of pulling that off?
They've already done it. They have no choice because this is where let's explain this a little bit clearer. The World Wide Web, which Kydrick has explained, is the W3C standards. It's actually got standards. They set about discovering identity as a topic at hand. They started that off around 2004 through 2007. They then set a subgroup up that actually decided they wanted to talk about digital ID. Then in 2019, prior to the whole COVID scenario even raised itself, they decided that they needed desperately to move digital ID as a standard they wanted to implement and enact. I think they wanted to do it by 2022. They've now created it that it has already happened. So in their standard documents now, it's stated that everybody who's going to interact in the internet, that means World Wide Web, has to have a digital ID. Now you go, well, what's the big deal about that? It's not, we can all say we're not going to do it. Here's where the issue is. Every government has a URL that happens to currently have real estate in a very prime little spotted area called the World Wide Web. That World Wide Web, as we may think, this little thing is not free. It's actually owned by somebody. Now, this is really important to get. It is run and owned by an individual, the man who actually created and discovered a way in. So he currently owns pretty much every government's URL and information. If
Do we know
he-
who this person is?
Yes, Timothy Lee. I can't remember his last name. I shouldn't say. Sir Timothy Lee Burns. I can't say his name. For some reason, it's not coming. Hydrick, can you remember his last name? I'll get it for you.
It's just been breaking up.
It's all good.
Yeah.
So
The
who
point
owns
is-
the web was the question. Did you hear me that time, mate? Who owns the web? The guy's name. There's one dude who owns it. This is news to me. I didn't realise it was one person. Sort of had the, I don't know, what do you call it, copyright on it. Are you losing us there, Kydrick?
Tim Berners-Lee.
I'm still here. It's just freezing up.
Yeah. So
Okay.
Tim Berners-Lee is who did it.
Okay.
So he actually discovered a way to it in 1989. Is how he created it. Like, we never think people are evil or doing anything, but the fact is the man actually does. So the fact of the matter is people can scream blue murder about digital ID, and it's a scary thing. But actual digital ID isn't the problem. It's just where is that data being kept and who is going to see it.
Yeah.
So it's really critical to get that it is definitely coming because it has become a standard. And for you to interact with a government, the government's going to make sure you have it. And
Okay.
yeah, so it's not intended to be scary. It's intended to really get present to. This is us. They
Okay,
want to.
so,
Yeah.
so it's coming. There's no ifs and buts about it. And what you're basically saying is that currently what they're proposing is about, as safe as letting a baby play with razor blades.
Nicely put.
Right.
So I just wanted to open that door in regards because people think they can fight this digital ID conversation. And I was definitely in the very same mentality about it until I saw the documentation around this and I had to go, okay, you know what? It's time we create something new. That's as simple as it goes. It's time to create something new. And if we don't create it and we don't work out a way where we can actually have digital ID where it's encrypted and we hold the key to where that data is, then we're going to fall into the hands of those that are going to do what they want to do.
So, shall we continue with how we solve this problem? Because you guys seem to have the solution, as you said. You guys are building the answer to this. So, let's bring up our screen again. Now, did we get through all that?
No, we just
We didn't.
Okay, we just scratched on the surface. Okay.
So it's important to actually highlight Microsoft released Intra, which is the W3 standard. So the last project they've released, Microsoft said, here's Intra, our gift to the world on the 11th of July 2023. So it's not that digital ID is coming. Digital ID is actually here. And this is in use in UK government. This is in use in RMIT. And 2 weeks later, Microsoft came out saying, we've now upgrading Intra to require accurate location tracking.
Now,
and we're
would this
talking
be
about
in relation
China level accurate
to-
location tracking.
Okay, and would the recent proposal for Microsoft and the government to spend, I can't remember how many $1 billion on our cyber security, would be related to this? I'm assuming.
Yes. Now, there's an embarrassing thing that happened around the 11th of July as well. The Azure Directory keys were walked out from Microsoft's head office. The master keys. You can have any lock in your house. We all know the factory has a master key to the lock to your house.
Yep.
Those master keys were taken. And embarrassingly enough, this now means that all keys have to be reset through the entire network, just like if the master key to your lock was taken, you'd have to replace the locks. So that's why you keep hearing about things like The Victorian government having all of its emails stolen. They weren't stolen. The keys were used, and once the keys are used, they can just walk out the door. So that there are people out there who are working very hard to slow this process down the best they can.
Okay. So would you say there might have been somebody inside the system who's gone, oh, we don't like this, we're just going to make your life a little bit harder, dear tyrannical government?
Well, Microsoft literally said they don't know who took the keys, and they were having a heck of a hard time trying to find them.
They blamed it on a contractor, but that's what they're going to do. They're going to blame it on someone.
That's just a smokescreen.
Yeah.
Yep. Even if they knew, they wouldn't tell you.
No, they wouldn't.
So, I think in order to answer this question quickly, no.
Mm-hmm. No, and this is something we mentioned previously. Apple's actually got a court case, a class action now, where if you've gone and turned off all of the tracking information on your phone, they're still collecting it. And that was a German research company that investigated this and said there's no difference in data that's being sent, so the toggle just makes you feel comfortable. So it doesn't actually do anything.
Wonderful.
You would have to ask Tim that.
Yep. So it's interesting that the man actually, his name is Sir Tim Berners-Lee. He is valued, you're right, at 50 million. But it's interesting because he heads everything to do with the W3C. The standards, the sitting groups, the identity groups, every single thing. And he has close proximity to all the big guys, even though he happens to be not supposedly owning the internet. He has access to all the data.
Scary stuff. So, next slide.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh. This kind of looks like how we started.
Yep.
So this is our introduction to the solution. Is that where we're going here?
Yes.
Yep. Now let's do the pitch.
Okay. All right, everybody, break your wallets out.
Do you want to take this part, Pamela?
Okay. So, as I said, end user. My intention when I came on board and I chose to do this was to test the computer out and do everything. Now, the one that Cyvizen put on here is the Ultrabook. There are other options we have. One of the things about this Ultrabook is it is light. I can carry it on. It is lighter than most books I have. Actually, it's lighter than almost all books I have. And it is, as Cyvizen put it, it's the military specification. So it's lightweight, it's magnesium alloy case. We've decided we will actually have it as a 3-year warranty. It has an all-day battery. So if I pull out my thing and I run around with it and I do it, it actually lasts me a whole day with no problems. And I can change it to power safe mode as well, which allows me to run this. But the key important factor is it comes preloaded with all your LibreWolf. It comes preloaded with LibreWolf, which is your browser, all your equivalent Word and spreadsheets and writers and all that, which is LibreOffice Suite. All that comes pre-installed. You have
and that's compatible with the current market products?
Yep, completely compatible with the current market products. So I have been swapping between using Word and changing my Word to, getting used to using LibreOffice Suite. And I have to say, I actually find I've taken my laptop, gone to presentations, and I'm typing away, doing my things, drawing little things, and I've gone, wow, this is actually easier to use than Word.
Awesome. So I've been finding the modern versions a little bit complicated.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, and it doesn't cost you anything. So really, it's all about how much do you want to learn, and the more you learn, the more feedback, the more as we push ourselves and get bigger, there's more push to do other things and even talk to LibreOffice Suite and be able to give feedback on that. There's just a whole range of conversations that we can have. But the most critical component is it comes with 1 terabyte of hardware on the computer with 40 gigs of RAM. So it's not a lightweight.
40 gigs of RAM, that's a good chunk of RAM. Most things usually come 8 to 16.
Well, we've made sure that you're getting a really good computer. It's not something we just go, oh, we're just going to give you something. We actually really have put time and energy to maximize what you're going to get for what you're paying. And it is we're not here to make the money, as one might say. That's not what we're here. We really are here, and Hybrid hasn't said this. Our commitment, our goal, our dream is to reconcile technology to mankind. And that's a really critical component. The only way we can reconcile technology is if we get this data, this way of living. This is a new existence for everybody because it is freedom. It is a freedom like I've never experienced. And I've used computers. I live and work on computers. Everything I've done, it's laughable, Barry, because I used to, in a previous life, be an environmental consultant. So
That's
So-
okay. I used to work for the mainstream media in a previous life, so look at me now. But you got to go through, the valley of shadow of death or whatever it is they call it in the Bible. You got to walk those dark paths in order to see the light, I guess.
You do. So I have used all sorts of computers, and this operating system, even the hardware, is beautiful. It's just lovely. And we've got now the option additionally to get a 15.6 inch screen, which this is the 15.6 and the 17.3.
Should I go to the next slide?
Yeah, please. I don't know what he's got on the next slide, actually. Oh, there you go. The graphics. He's got more information.
There we go.
So that's your Intel Core 10, which is now here. We're currently on the 13th gen, but come next year when the 14th goes, it'll go to the 14th generation. That's our commitment, is that no matter what, we will always have the latest hardware, the latest on that in that respect, because we do not wish to have any issues. Those are the specifications. There are 2 slots for your hardware, so those both can go up to 8 terabytes each. We've chosen for 1 terabyte because the reality is you don't need more than 1 terabyte unless you're seriously doing some, in which case we tell you to get a hard drive that you can take it externally, or if you wanted to do a slot and then do that, you can. Now, it doesn't void your warranty when you open the computer and actually put in a hard drive. It doesn't void your warranty. This is important because most Microsoft or Apple, if you actually opened your computer up and did something, it completely voids your warranty.
Yeah. How dare you think for yourself?
Yes, you're not allowed to do that. You're supposed to be a droid. Go to the next slide.
All right. So these are the droids we're looking for.
Yep. So this is what the Ultrabook comes with, which is a USB-C, which has 1 slot, 2 USB-As, a headset jack, which is 1 Kensington lock, which basically means you can go to and you can go
and for
out.
those who don't know, that's a USB-C. I think that kind of, that looks like a better angle. So lovely one that goes for most Android sort of things, and I find Apple Macs tend to have them. And of course, your USB-A is your standard USB. The one that has 3 ways to put it in. The way that was right that didn't work the first time. The way that obviously didn't work because it was wrong, and then we come back to the first one and it's suddenly working. Anyway, continue. Sorry.
You also have a HDMI port, which we haven't put there, and you also have a micro SD slot, which is fascinating for me because I've never actually had a computer that could just take a simple micro SD straight in with no issue, and I can just leave it in there. So I've got
I don't need these bloody things anymore that convert me micro.
No, it's nice and small.
Or
so I can...
one of these little Duvamalakis, so I can get the right angle there and universally input them. So
you don't need a USB like that. You've just got a micro SD if you wish to use that. Now, I do actually have a micro SD permanently on mine, 128 gig micro SD that I just leave in there when I need to.
Yeah, a bit of extra memory when you need it.
Just the 1 terabyte doesn't work. Just that extra bit.
You should see the stack of hard drives I've got here. I'd show you, but it's embarrassing.
Oh dear. I do understand, actually. I'm in the process of trying to move a lot of my data from my old ones because they're now not readable on many things because they're changing every format process. And It's interesting.
Yeah, I've got a lot of cleaning up to do. I hope to maybe get a week or two off at some stage and go through and go, all right, cool, I've got triplicates of this scattered across these drives and organised. But let's not bore everybody with the problems of my life. Let's move on to the next slide. And here we go, the hurt locker.
Well, here's the thing. You have a choice of this one, which I've just described. The 15.6 and the 17.3 are pretty much the same, except for, now, please write this down. It doesn't have the military
No
grade.
more slides?
No, stay there.
No more slides.
No more slides, but stay put. The 15 and the 17 do not have the military standards. They're a little bit heavier. In fact, they're 1.25 and 2.25 in size, in weight. So they're a laptop. This is an Ultrabook. That's a laptop. But what we have done is, one, you've got the screen size difference, and the second part is it's actually 2 terabytes of hardware. 2 terabytes in each of those, and it's a 32 gig RAM. 32 gigabyte RAM. Still big, but it's but all of them are the same price. You can choose any one of them, and they're the same price.
Rightio.
And we've done our utmost to make that. So, like I said, intentionally doing this because we want to see everybody utilize these computers. It comes with, when you open it up and you install it, it comes with docs that actually talk you through how to set your computer up on certain things. There is a process to set the computer up, but that process, there's a piece of paper that will now come with every computer that talks you down how to do things, as I discovered. We needed that. And but the reality is it is a learning curve, initial learning curve, because we've all become so used to being, and I'm going to say this boldly, we've become used to being slaves. And we're so accustomed to the idea that we want to fight the oppressor. Here's the thing. The moment you fight an oppressor, you are a slave. You can't help it. It's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah,
because it means
their authority.
Bingo. So we're not. We at Cyvizen, very simply, we're not here to fight anybody. We're here to create something newly, and that's what we've done. And it's really important that what we're bringing with us is, and it's what was it? It's not AI. It's love and intelligence, which is what we're bringing with us. Yeah. So, all in all, we're looking at the fact that it's going to be that 3223 plus shipping is what the cost is. Yeah. And you will have support from myself or tech support from us. Eventually, there will be a process with the subscription model which allows for other things to occur, which we're not going to release right now because there's just quite a lot in that world of it, what we've just talked about. But our commitment to bring the best and support you through the growth and the learning is where my word is. And I know that's what Kydrick and the other founder, so the three of us, are committed to having for Cyvizen.
Yes.
All right, so this is all sounding pretty awesome.
A point that we just missed from the slide, that I missed putting in the slides. We offer free updates and free upgrades. That's a point to really stress. So this is it. If the hardware doesn't have a new magic thing they've discovered saying there's a fault with new hardware, the updates and upgrades are free for life. That's our commitment to this.
So provided we don't need a whole new laptop, the software component is free, and that's really good. That's awesome. So let's have a look at some of these questions. So I think that we have to tell this guy the bad news that he needs 12th generation, correct?
Yes.
Sorry, mate.
That's right. It's going to be 12 Gen plus.
It's all right. Trust me. I'm here feeling the hurt. I've got about another 3 machines out there that are all in dire straits. The toggle switch is just a switch that's not going to connect. I'm not quite sure what you mean, Rachel. Sorry. Can you guys figure that one out?
I'm guessing that's the camera switch we're talking about. So there's a keyboard combination you can do on the keyboard that turns off the camera. It is connected to the BIOS. So it's not like some other people who talk about physical switches being on machines. If you had access to BIOS, you could turn it back on. But as we said, we're focused on a particular use case, which is as we said at the beginning.
Okay, Optus is not what we're talking about. Sorry, Rach. How much can I spend for military grade top shelf models, please? Well, I believe it's it's the one price suits all. Yeah. Optus chat doesn't work. It's just yeah, cool. Sorry, mate. Not really helpful. Okay, so a question I was going to ask at the presentation when we were at Apocalypso a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, I'm playing with some big boy toys. I got the i9 and whatnot, and I'm punching as much crap into it as I possibly can. I'm still waiting for the more advanced, bigger RAM because I want a good 128 minimum is where I want to go. Obviously, I'm running special effects, digital design. I'm playing with big boy toys. How long away are we looking from a desktop model that'll suit my purposes?
Cedric?
The deafening silence is encouraging.
I didn't actually hear any of that. If you can answer it for me.
Okay.
Would you like me to repeat the question?
No. How long before we get a desktop model to suit Batty's purposes of running very large graphics and a whole range of other things that he needs to do what he's doing?
Ballpark. Obviously, I understand there's a lot to play with here. So.
Well, if you're wanting to order 500 of them, we probably could work something out there.
Daisy chain them all together, eh?
It is very much in the conversation. I have been asking for a desktop model myself. We're trying to actually work out where the battle with a desktop is. Where is it made?
Yeah.
That is the battle that most of us face. And the fact is, in today's world, you don't want a tower the size of, like something you have to carry around this massive tower, which I know you're probably looking at now. So,
two of them.
So we want to be able to create what you've got there, Batty, but it's in a desktop that's actually, I can carry it.
No, I don't need to carry it around. I just want it to do the job, I'm not planning on taking it on tour.
No, you never know. But the intention here is, I couldn't actually tell you. I could say a year. It could even be less. The reality is, like I said, where we are right now in terms of what we're implementing, we thought it would be at least 2 years. We've had to go in less than 6 months. We've smashed 2 years into 6 months. Awesome. So we've got now in our conversation, one of the critical components we're looking at doing is creating an email, but the chat is what we're going to pay attention to first, because there's no secure chat and there is no secure email. None, zero. It is heartbreaking to think that every correspondence, everything that we're doing and saying via text or via email is all read. It is actually safer to take your letter, write it by hand, and send it through the post than it is to do it the way we now have become accustomed to doing it via email. But everyone wants it yesterday, so email is what we do.
Yeah.
So just on that note, let's talk specifically on the transparency of email. We had Netscape. If anyone can remember, way back to Netscape.
Yep, I'm old enough.
Back in the Microsoft browser wars, all the old fellas in the room put their hand up and go, "I like Netscape."
No, I didn't actually. I hated Netscape, but I remember it.
Netscape was positioned. Yeah, everyone hated Netscape, but that's beside the point. They just hated it. Netscape was positioned to win a significant court case against Microsoft because Microsoft was putting Internet Explorer in the operating system, and up until then, everything had to be downloaded to upgrade. And what happened is the the high level executives emailed each other back and forward threats before this court case, and those emails were taken into the court, and the judge threw the case out, saying they're basically children. And what that did is it set precedents that all emails are public record. So just to get it into context, communications today, email, voice, these things we use are public record mechanisms.
Okay. So, to me, it seems like a pretty good deal that you guys are offering there. You know, $3,223 versus the $50,000 worth of, you know, potential losses as we described earlier in the video. You know, if people are still tuning in, you're gonna have to go back to the start. Sorry, I'm not going to revisit 2 hours again. But you know, although fundamentally, this box here is going to do what I need it to do for the purposes of creating this content and the entertainment for the masses and getting the story out. We can still at least use the Cyvizen as a basic word processing system. We can surf the internet a lot safer. We can use text-based communication systems and emails and stuff and know that we're somewhat safe there. I do remember you said something to the effect of you know, like a social media. Have you developed a social media platform within it, you know, at least within the text-based limitations?
Work in progress, Kydrick. Did you hear that?
It doesn't even work. I apologize.
Do we have a social media platform?
No, we don't. It is a work. It is a work in progress.
Okay.
But
we're looking.
If we didn't do network, then maybe.
Actually, what we are looking for is actually anyone interested in who's IT based, who actually is interested in joining and being part of this growth. Get in touch with us, because we're looking for those individuals. We're looking for individuals who are not here to fight, like we said. We're not here to fight. We're here to create. We're here to create because we're here to reconcile technology to mankind. And it's so critical that we want like-minded individuals on that pathway. So the more we can actually get that happening, the faster all these developments can occur. It is the website, just so everybody knows, is also needing to be updated because we have a number of different things that I'd like to see happen. So I am the single female on I'm the single female in this group where there are 2 men and myself. But
we need to get that PC component going, get a few more women on the team.
Well, here's the thing. I love what Kydrick has created. It is phenomenal. As an operating system, as a hardware, I have had no issues with it. But more than anything else, what you talked about, Patty, in terms of wanting something specific to your tasks, one of the things we request is actually go in and let us know what are your specificities. Because with us knowing that, we can actually go, okay, where can we put attention to? How do we actually get the graphics cards or the video cards of doing this? What are the intentions we need to do? And if we're going to bring, say, someone like yourself, Patty, who's involved in this, we can actually work with you to create something that's going to span that particular genre of people wanting that level of computers. It might not, I mean, like, so just so everyone knows, the computers that we put forward, what it has in terms of its technical specifications and everything else, those computers would go for $4,000 and $5,000. We've made sure it's at that 3223 for a very, very good reason.
So
yes.
So, 12th generation, how do we avoid Windows when acquiring new laptops suitable for systems, etc.? You buy one of these. I'm guessing that's a short answer.
Thank you. I think so. Yes, you're not going to avoid.
Yeah. I here have a few words. Nothing is private. Yep. Gates of Hell. Yeah. Nice. What play on words? I like that. Yeah, specific last week. These ones.
Yeah.
Last question. Are you concerned you may be forcibly convinced to shut down the conversation? Well, I believe you answered that earlier in the sense that, it's sort of end to end. You can't be that third party interloper, so it's a physical impossibility, yeah?
Yeah. So it's been designed with the fact that we know this is the legislation. So Kydrick and myself, I mean, I have read enough legislation to try to never want to read legislation again in my life.
Yep, I hear you there.
Yeah.
I've got some friends who do love reading it, so if you find yourself needing a bit of a hand, I can certainly point you in the right direction to some people who actually get some kind of pleasure out of it. I don't know how they do it, but each to their own. We all have our uses and our purposes in this world, and as I continuously say to people, this is it's like the Highlander, the Gathering, we're everybody's kind of coming together at this point, and it's really awesome to see. I think particularly the Apocalypso weekend was an amazing example of that, and I'm glad I went because I got to meet you, and we wouldn't be having this conversation had I not. So this is the Gathering. It's time for everybody to bring their piece to the party.
Yeah.
I do need more time.
Thank you.
But you can also be one of those clever people, Rachel. I know you, and I know you're one of those clever people. You just got to find your spot. That's all it is.
So, yeah, okay. Cyvizen getting shut down. Concerned. I can't actually share this yet, Kydrick.
That's right.
Well, we'll call it a trade secret for now.
Yeah, we're not concerned. How about I say that we're not concerned? We are actually very present, very aware of what's going on globally, and we're working with some amazing individuals who are also very much in alignment with the work that needs to be done. And so because of that, we are setting ourselves up that we're working with and creating something pretty phenomenal. So our commitment is to stay here, and I know we will be.
Awesome.
That we can share about a state, though, Pramila. Did you want to share about a state?
Yeah, sure. You can, not me.
I knew that. Okay. So we anything that we work on is we always put Cyvizen in front of it. So because there's some things that it's better for us to build than businesses, and we have designed Cyvizen in the prospect that if you have a business, there is an open API where there's a way that's going to be presented to be able to work with that. So like North Queensland Freedom Network is not on its own bubble and isolated. It's able to leverage all the technology and work with that, especially with people who have Cyvizens. There's a product we're releasing called Cyvi Estate. Now, those of you who have had loved ones move on, you'll know that there's a process called probate in Australia, which can be very nasty. Cyvi Estate lets you do things like wills, which then get cut up. The access to that will the will itself gets stored in the network, and then it gets locked, and the access to that gets cut up into pieces using perfect forward security. So things like, say you had 5 kids, you may cut the key to the will in 6 pieces, and then require all 6 pieces to be brought back together to open it, which means you can give one to all your kids and one to the lawyer. And only when all of them come together can that key be shown and the will revealed, which means it's an authoritative record, not a probate challengeable record. It's an authoritative record of your will. And
now, the first thing that pops into my head is
mechanism for ourselves.
So what would happen in that instance? Say one of the children dies before you fixed that extra key. We've only got 5 out of 6 now. What happens?
Well, that would be, you see, this is where the information of that individual who's passed would also, if he has key, it would be put in place just the same as anything, that if that key is something happens, that key would go to this other individual. it would be.
So it's very important that everybody follows the chain because, well, I mean, again, if that one person didn't do that, that kind of phones everyone else.
Yeah,
the other option you may do. Sorry, the network keeps lagging for me. The other option you may do is to actually cut it into 6 pieces, but only require, say, 3 of them to come together. So then you've got built-in redundancy if a couple of the kids died along the way. But you don't tell the kids that. You tell them 6 pieces are needed.
Keep that unity together, you know. Yeah.
But it also means that same technology we're talking about can be used for information and your IP and a whole host of other things.
That's right.
So
and we use that ourselves.
Yeah, and we do use that ourselves. So this is where it's important to get that this technology we're talking about, Cyber Estate, it's not just limited to one type of deliverance. There can actually occur in many assets and aspects.
Yeah. Many applications.
Multiple. There are a lot of components, and Friedrich hasn't said, but he is actually noted as being in the world as one of the top 10 in the IT world, but he won't say that.
I gave you that opportunity at the beginning, man, and you denied the opportunity to say where you come from. Righto.
Well, he doesn't.
So that was a great. You got to work on your marketing there, man.
Well, here's the thing. You've all heard him now speak, and so you haven't got that, oh, well, he's just one of those genius people. He's actually really concerned about what has occurred in the world, as so am I, because we've seen. So I've seen in the environmental world, I know they don't care about the koalas. They don't care about anything except their proposed, not even that. It's not even the dollar. It's power. It's actually about, there's a real power play going on, which is why I don't want to play that game. But Kyrick's seen his fair share and more of what goes on and how the entire banking world works and the entire industries, multiple different industries work. I've had my fair share of seeing the same thing over the course of my lifetime that I've lived. And the truth here is, it's time for us to band together. What you said, Patty, all the pieces coming together, because we are the tech people. We're here to create something that will span our ability to communicate with each other and keep our communication channels open, because it's going to get closed very soon. And we are not committed to being part of that slavedom.
I agree. I definitely, I look at what's happening at the moment and I wonder how long I'm going to be able to do this network. With the disinformation bill in particular, it's no longer a case of me fighting it. It's a case of the fact that these networks are going to be shut down if they give me a platform. So, the race is on. We've got a very short amount of time to sort of start developing the new world the way we want it, as opposed, to the new world the way they want to order it.
And you've got to remember, they've been at this. And when I say they, it's not at this big bad out there type thing. The individuals that are that one single percentage, as people say, I would assert it's probably more like 0.1%.
Yep.
That little small bracket of people have been doing this for over 100 years. This is not something. This is not something that they decided to run willy-nilly. This has been planned. It's executed. They have fumbled, made many mistakes. World War I, World War. You can see the mistakes. You just have to watch it. But the fact is, today, now we stand at a precipice where we're not buying the rubbish that is being handed to us, and we have more individuals like us out there that have awoken, taking the step, and we know there's a higher existence for us. We know of our higher selves. We keep that communications open. We are grounded to the earth we live on. We're present to the fact that we're here to create an experience, and we're not here to give ourselves over to some random ease of living with comfortability and all of those things that as much as
Yeah.
I like, that's not where I'm standing from.
No, I agree. I always find it's very, very generous of other people to want to give up my freedom on their behalf. It's very kind of them.
Mm.
Yeah. Let's have a look at
So,
some of these questions. So, can your system be investigated by authorities making false claim against you, or it's invisible? I believe we answered that several times in the sense that it's end to end. You cannot be, a third party interloper. Yeah.
yep.
Refreshing. Well, yep. Awesome. In case you're not didn't know, 832 actually is my God, it's my own bloody thing. The truth will set you free, and that was one of the funny things when I met Michael. I seen this 832 on the inside of his bus. I'm like, is that like his UHF channel or something? And then I had a chat with him. He's like, no, it's from the book of John in the Bible. The truth will set you free. I'm like, oh wow, that's actually what I just wrote the words. I was never that creative, but it was interesting. We were on the same page. Biden's proposal of giving internet power to FCC in the USA. Wow, I'm gonna go with that's bad.
Hydrick, can you see that?
I can see it. The thing is, we're actually not allowed. We can't talk about this yet.
Yes, we can't
Okay.
actually say
Stay
anything.
tuned in another
This is-
episode.
Yes.
So you'll have to keep an eye on the network for more information on that one.
Actually, I can say one thing. What's your view on Biden? Here's the thing. The man falls up and downstairs.
Yep, that's he's got a talent. He's got a talent. You can't deny the man that. It's weekend at Bernie's all over. As Tiffany and this misinformation bill comes in, let's not be too defeatist. I think you'll find that a lot of people have got some ideas in the mix. Just stay tuned. We'll see what happens. Yep, I reckon you're onto something there.
I'm actually going to expand on that and say it's actually the target. You are the. Let's flip it back on you. Because anonymity loves company. If you this is the thing that people don't understand about technology today. The more people that come together under the power of the digital technology, the more powerful that becomes. It's not the other way around. So that when targeting is only about isolating, that's all that can be done in the digital world. If you can cut and cut and cut and cut, then you have a chance at making people stay quiet as people come together. Properly designed technology breeds anonymity, breeds growth, and breeds human interaction. So we're not the target crowd or the underestimate of the target crowd. It's you. It's literally coming back to you.
So when you say you're, it's everyone.
But it's actually you, the individual.
Yeah, each individual as the you.
Yeah.
You a bit technical for me, but interesting to hear how we are being spied on and manipulated as is. That's all good. The more you dive into these things, the less technical it seems. It's just like anything. You just teaching my kids. It's sorry guys, you have to start with sitting up before you can stand. You got to start with crawling before you can walk. Things like that. As long as you're willing to give it a go, it's not that hard. Obviously, I'm certainly not up to Kydrick's level here, but I've been playing around with tech enough to at least be able to translate it into relative terms. Safety, as this is a big deal. I think we've answered that question a few times, to be honest. Unless you want to add something further. It might be a case of, sorry, you're going to have to go back and watch the 2 hours
again. They're
again.
saying evil triumphs when good men do nothing. So whether we were concerned for our safety or not concerned, we're not, by the way, we're not concerned for our safety. Yeah. We still have a duty and an obligation to stand up and do something, as does everyone else. You need to draw the line somewhere. Everyone has to draw that line. Otherwise, why are you here?
Yeah, better dead than red.
Exactly.
Right, rather not be alive than go through it. Yes, that's correct, Janine. Thank you for that fumble I had earlier. Will the real Joe Biden? Yeah, a bit of Slim Shady lyrics there. For a month before. Man, I think we've all been there. We've all been there. We stand strong, divided, we live on our knees. Yeah, pretty much. So, and that's what it is. We're building that community. That's it's the gathering. We're all coming together. This is our time to shine. People, find your moment and shine in it. Well, guys, I think we better sort of call it a day, unless you guys got something to really add into it. But I think we should probably catch up, maybe in 6 months' time, relatively, unless you got some amazing technological development in the meantime. By all means, drop me a line. I think everybody's really enjoyed this. I know I have. And I think I'll have to look into getting one of those machines myself. We might have a bit of a chat about how we can sort something out. And when we're done here, my FB was taken off me. You're not the only one, buddy. You're not the only one. So, thank you very much, guys. This has been awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any further questions, people, just drop that in the comments or email me, and we will talk to you in the future. All our information is in the link tree, which is in the description. I'm not going to bore you with the likes and the shares and subscribes because I say it so often. You should already know. It's basic stuff. Just help us out. It's so simple. Those basic things to like it, to share it, to subscribe it. If you enjoyed this, there's a good chance somebody else did too. And, the work these guys are doing here at Cyvizen is just absolutely amazing. And I'm certainly looking forward to see it develop further. I'm looking forward to my big fat i9 desktop computer ready to tackle all the Adobe software problems that I have. So thank you very much, guys.
Thank you so much for having us. And please put your order in. This is what we want to see, because the more it grows, the more we can develop, the more we can get what exactly Batty wants.
Yeah, that's it. Many hands make light work. We've got to get those laptops sold so I can get my big fancy machine going. Very much appreciate the help, and thanks heaps, guys. This has been really, really good.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, take it easy, all.
Good night.